Feeling overwhelmed by your tasks, notes, and ideas? With the abundance of digital information, it's challenging to keep track and connect it meaningfully to your life. This is where the concept of a second brain comes in. Your physical brain can only keep a limited amount of information. By using an external space like Notion as your second brain, you can capture and retrieve relevant information effortlessly. This concept, popularized by productivity expert Tiago Forte in his book Building a Second Brain, revolutionizes personal knowledge management. In this video, I'll give you a tour of the ultimate second brain template plus tasks. This enhanced version combines note-taking, idea collection, and task management into a seamless system, allowing you to act on information across various life areas, projects, and resources. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Let's first start with a brief overview of this template. So when you first download this template, you'll notice the following sections. So there are the folders, which are separated by projects, areas, resources, archive/done, and no category. Underneath here, we have your tasks. Then there's a notes inbox where you can see all of your notes, which are not categorized in folders. Underneath there, we have weekly and monthly review. And then you can see all of your notes at one glance. If we go to the sidebar, you'll notice that there are two buttons for adding a new note and adding a new task. In the navigation sections, there's also a mobile view you can use, as well as tasks, notes, projects, areas, resources, and archive, all in its separate pages. And then under here, we have reviews for weekly and monthly. And then finally, we have all of the databases here stored, and make sure not to delete this or the template isn't going to work. To get started with using the template, the first thing I recommend you to do is to start by creating folders. So just to kind of explain this folder system, it's the Para system, which is the system designed by Tiago Forte, where you organize your notes into projects, areas, resources, and then archive/done. And basically what this allows you to do is to really focus on gathering notes and resources specific to what's relevant to your needs at the moment. So what projects are usually things that you have sort of a date in mind or a goal that you want to accomplish, like creating a backyard garden, creating online courses, publishing a book. All of these can be projects. And if you want to add a new project, you simply have to click plus new page in here. And let's go ahead and add a new project to redo the kitchen, for example. And once you have that, you can choose a start and an end date. So let's say that we're going to start today and we're going to end on sometime. Let's say that we want to finish it in the end of January. And the type is projects. And then inside of every project type folder, you'll have a project description. You can fill out important questions that you might want to ask yourself about the project in the planning phase. And then there's also, after you're finished with the project, a completion and archive review. So all of these folders have the option to actually be archived. So if you feel like it's not relevant to you anymore, you can always archive this instead of completing it. And the other thing to note is that you'll see all of your tasks relating to this project here, and you'll see all of your notes relating to this project here. We'll get more deeper into how to actually add tasks and notes a bit later, but basically through this folder, you can actually see how many notes are in here, how many incomplete tasks there are, and so on. So this is a very useful way to kind of see everything related to this specific project. So the next folder that we have are areas, and these are all things that are life areas. So things like exercise, finances, mental health, and personal growth. So you can think of what kind of life areas you want to focus on and then add the folder for that here. Just as an example, we have one for exercise. So just like the other folder for projects, you can also add new folders by clicking the plus new page here. And each time inside of a life area folder type, you'll notice that it has different sets of information, like the life area reflection, which you can kind of see what kind of current status is this life area, your important questions about this life area, and also when you archive it, you can sort of review this life area and why it's not that relevant to you anymore if you feel like you've accomplished a lot in this life area. And you can see your tasks for this life area as well as the notes for this life area. So this is another type of folder category that you can have. The next folder category is resources. And what sets resources apart is that resources are things and topics that you want to focus on and gather information about. So if at the moment you're interested in art and philosophy, this can be a great way to gather notes throughout your day that might relate to art and philosophy. So if we open one of these resources up, we can check what kinds of information is in here. You can reflect on the resource. So why are you interested in this topic? And important questions. Why do you want to take notes about this resource? What do you hope to learn? Any other questions you want to answer? So all of these are kind of things you can ask yourself when you create a new resource type folder. And if you need to create a new one, you can simply click the plus new page inside of here in order to create a new resource type folder. The next folder type we have here is archive/done, and basically this encompasses all the other folders, projects, areas, and resources, but ones that are not as relevant to you anymore. So here we have kitchen remodeling. Maybe we tried to do this in the past, so this was archived, but now we're restarting again to redo the kitchen. So this one is in archive/done. Then there's also no category. So this is in the case that you accidentally create a folder that has no category. It's going to show up in here, and then you can put it into the relevant categories. So the next step with this second brain is that you want to capture your notes. So in order to capture your note, you have several options for adding them. One is to add a new note by just clicking this first button here, add new note. Let's say that we find a really interesting article about redoing the kitchen, and we can add the folders database, which is that we're trying to redo the kitchen. You can add a URL to the article, the source, type, so if this is a web article, key points if you'd like, tags, files and media, and you can also check here if you think that it needs a review later, and you can add your notes, web bookmarks, and embeds here. So once we have this note, then we can click out, and you'll notice that the redo the kitchen has one note inside now. If we open it up, you can see that note here, so the last edited. And one thing you can do also is that if you want to review it later, you can take this checkbox off and you can see all of your notes that need to review here relating to this topic. Once you feel like this note doesn't really have any value to this anymore, you can also archive the note and click this button. When you archive the note, you'll notice that the notes no longer show up here and it's now inside of the archive section. So in this way, you can really make sure to keep all of your notes up to date and things that are actually relevant and important to you. The other way to add new notes is to click on one of the cards and then click the plus new note. So let's say that we have a new note for publishing a book. We can click plus new note, and then we can put something like ideas on how to market the new book. And you can add a URL for this, the source, the type. So let's say that this is a web article. And one thing to note is that notes can be anything. So it can be web articles, books, ideas, feedbacks, even meetings, podcasts, and video. So anything that you might want to take note on, it doesn't necessarily have to be any kind of published article. It could also just be your idea. And then there's also key points, tags, and files and media. And the rest is basically the same. If we click out, you can now see that there is one note inside publish a book. So you can also add notes that way by just simply clicking inside the one you want to add a note for. If we go all the way down, we can also see all of the notes here. And if we click need to review, you can see all of the notes that you marked for review. Once you're done reviewing, you can click these so that they're out of the review section. And everything also shows up based on when you last updated it. So you can always see the last edited note here. And the next thing I wanted to talk about is the notes inbox. So this is again relating to notes, but basically if you want to capture a note really quickly, you might want to just click here and new thought you had. And then you don't know what folder database it goes to. It's just a new thought that you just wanted to jot down, and you can add anything here and then you click out. And what happens is that when you jot down new notes really quickly, it's going to show up into your notes inbox. And later, when you have time to actually sort through it, you can add what it was. Is it an idea, URLs? And then the most important is to categorize it based on the folder's database. So let's say that you realize some thought about the kitchen. You were in a hurry, so you added this in. But you can actually just now add it to this redo kitchen. And now we have 2 notes inside of here. So the notes inbox is designed so that you can quick capture and then sort of organize it later when you have more time. The next thing we're going to be covering is the tasks. So when you open up this template and you're on this main dashboard, you'll see the tasks due today, tomorrow, tasks that are overdue, tasks that have no due date, and tasks that have no folder to attach it to. So when you want to add a new task, you can click the add new task here. So let's say that regarding the kitchen, you need to do more research about redoing the kitchen. So do more research about kitchens, and that's a task. And you can also set a due date. So you want to make sure you do some research by Monday next week. Then you can do something like this. And then if you don't put a folder here and you click out, you'll see your no folder here. And if you want, you can actually categorize this into different folders. So obviously this one is about redoing the kitchen. So we can add that. And also if there's no due date, it's going to show up here. And now we can check the today, tomorrow schedule as well. And once you have added quick tasks this way, you can go to the task page here. And here you'll see various things like this card that we now added, which is to do more research about kitchens. And when it's in progress, you can move it to in progress. And when it's done, it goes into done. You can see your tasks by incomplete by date. So you can see the last 30 days, today, and the next 7 days. And then you can see it by folder. So which tasks are remaining in this folder. And you can see your backlog and you can see completed tasks. And let's see what happens if we move it to in progress. And then let's say that this is done. Then you can also see the completion of your tasks by month and what you completed. So here you can see that you did a task for creating a backyard garden, creating online courses, and redoing the kitchen. So here you can see how many you've done, so that it kind of is motivating to see a big number here per month. And if we go back now, you can now see that we had one task in here, but now it's gone because it's done. If you want to add another task, you can click plus new task in here as well. So let's say that the next thing you need to do is measure the kitchen. And you're going to add a due date, let's say for Wednesday. And it's already going to be tagged with the correct folders database. If we click out, you can see that now we have one task in here. We can open this up and we can see the task in here, so that in the next 7 days, you have to complete this one. The one thing you can do is to add a note into your task. So you can go ahead and click the 6 dots. Let's say that you want to mention this note and then copy link, and then you can paste it in. And then you can choose mention. So now you can see the note that you want to refer to when you're doing this task. And the other thing to note is when you put it into progress, you can also decide not to do this task and move it to backlog. So if we move it to backlog, it's going to disappear from your tasks and it's going to end up in the backlog. So when you do feel like you have more time, you can also just go back to reassigning this and having it show up here. So the next step with the second brain is to do weekly and monthly reviews. And this ensures that you always have the most relevant note topics, projects, areas, and resources, as well as the most relevant and important tasks. So it allows you a chance to actually organize, go through your notes, tasks, and make sure that everything is set up really well. So if we go ahead and go to the weekly and monthly review, we can go ahead and add a new weekly review by clicking the plus new page. We can open it up and it's going to load its special template inside. And then you can go ahead and click the date, start and end, and then click the end date and start the date here and end it here. So at the end of the week, what you can do is do a weekly review. The first step will be to check your notes by going to the notes inbox. If there's anything in the inbox that you need to move to specific folders or to actually archive it, you can do so here if it's not really relevant. So once you're done, you can check that off. The next thing to do is examine your active folders. And here you can think about whether or not all of these make sense for you right now. So are you still really focused on exercise, finances, mental health? If it's not the case, you can go ahead and archive these folders. And that's the same whether it's projects or resources as well. So make sure to really think about which ones are really important to you. Once you're done with that, you can decide if you need to add new folders. Maybe you've discovered something new this week that you feel like would make a good folder that you really want to keep track of, then you can add them at this moment. If you're done with that, you can go scroll down to all notes, and something important that Tiago Forte mentions is just to have time to actually just scroll through random notes and see if you find anything interesting. So here you can go to your note and kind of see if there's anything interesting that you've missed. So let's say that you didn't realize you had this note or that note. And when you find something interesting, you can just tag it with needs review so that you can come back to it. So every week, this is a really good exercise just to scroll through all your notes and see if you find anything interesting that's relevant to you right now. The next step that you should do is to check your tasks. So we're going to go to all tasks, and you can reorganize due dates. So if there's something that is overdue, like this one is overdue, we can go ahead and change the date to another date so that everything is relevant and timely. And then you can go ahead and check if there's anything by folder that's missing. So you can see that this task is not really categorized by any folder. So if that's something you want to fix, you can also do that. And you can check your backlog. And also one thing that's really important is to just check this week and what you completed. So you can see which of these tasks you've completed and in which category and folder. Once you're done with that, you can check this one off, and then you can move on to the reflection. So you can think about, how did your note taking go this week? How did your tasks go this week? What could be better and what went well? And any new findings or connections you found from your notes. Once you're done with this, you can go ahead and check it off so that it's complete. And then at the end of the month, you can go over to the monthly, add a new monthly review, open this one up, and you can put a start and end date here, like this. And you can do basically the same. So all of these are the same as weekly review, except it's a little bit of a longer time frame. So you can kind of see per month. And if you are going to be adding new folders or thinking about active folders, the monthly review might be a better time to actually reorganize this structure rather than every week, but it's a good idea to really think about it every week as well. Once you're done with this portion, you can click completed, and now all of your completed reviews are going to go up here. So the next thing I wanted to show you is the different pages on the sidebar. So all of these are basically everything you see in the front page. So some people might prefer to actually focus on specific pages. And in this case, the tasks page is one of the most important. So you might want to even start this page so that it's in your favorites. The other important page might be the notes inbox. So you can actually organize through your notes without any distractions. And then also, if you want to really focus on projects, areas, or resources, you can go to each of these pages as well, and they're kind of in a bigger format. So it might be nice to check those. And then there's also the weekly and monthly reviews. So if you only want to see weekly reviews, you'll see them here, and the same for the monthly. And the final thing is the mobile view. So if you want to use this template on your phone, you can go ahead and favorite this mobile view and open this one up there so that you can easily add new notes and new tasks with just the click of a button. And your tasks and all of these things are laid out in a little bit more user-friendly way for mobile use. And this card format is going to really help out in terms of that. So be sure to check this out if you're interested in the mobile view. So that's the basics of the Ultimate Second Brain template plus tasks. And I hope that this is a really useful way to combine your task management with your note management and knowledge management so that it's kind of a seamless experience from start to finish so that you can sort of categorize your notes, tasks, ideas, everything that might be related to any of these projects, areas, or resources in one place. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in this template, be sure to check the description below. If you only need to store your notes, there's also the version without tasks. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, and hope to see you all in the next video.